Alrighty, it is Saturday. I love Saturdays because we get to just unpack it all. We get to unwind a little bit. We get to talk about some politics stuff, some political stuff going on in the world. Because the problem is nobody's talking about the politics anymore. Everybody's just getting their sound bites from hopefully CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, Al Jazeera, the BBC. But it seems, unfortunately, that a lot of people are getting their news from TikTok and YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels and Facebook Shorts, whatever theirs are called. And the problem is, when you have a generation of people that haven't been educated properly to begin with, then they're not going to know what to do with random factoids. It is so easy to confuse people by giving them random factoids. You can make them happy, you can make them sad, you can incite them to anger very, very quickly. Because there we go, new follower. Thanks for joining the program. The big thing here is that we've talked about a lot of key issues already on the show. Last week we talked about we need statesmen, not politicians. We're gonna revisit that one later on in the show. We've talked about the school reform. We've talked about fair and equal. And some of these things are starting to generate discussions among my community, and I really like that. I really like. Some people were like, "Jay, when's the politics show? Because I wanna come over to the politics show and I wanna hang out." This week we're gonna be talking about money, tax reform. And there's a lot. I have a video on this YouTube channel. If you're on the YouTube, if you're on Twitch, there's a video on the YouTube channel called Taxing People into Poverty. And the problem I have with this is everybody's blaming the other side for everything, when the truth is, once you swear in to be a member of the House of Representatives, once you swear in to be a member of the Senate, once you swear in to be the president or the vice president, once you take a cabinet position, the problem becomes your problem. It is now your problem to deal with. But everybody's so busy pointing over the aisle. It's not the Republicans, it's the Democrats. It's not the Democrats, it's the Republicans. It's the left, it's the right, it's the Libertarians, it's the Green Party. Yeah, because the Libertarians and the Green Party make up so much of a majority that they're causing the problems, right? And yet that's what people will say. People will say, if we didn't have independence, if we didn't have a member of the Communist Party, if we didn't have libertarians, then the two core parties would have the membership they need to get things done. And again, I'm going to reference it took 15 votes to get a Speaker of the House elected. With that said, big thing I constantly hear is red states versus blue states. People got to stop being red states or blue states. People got to start being, I think the states need to start getting reflected on the things they need. But the problem is that the states are an entity, but there's people in those states. One of the things we're going to look at here, we're actually going to look at some web pages today. 3 out of the top 10 states getting more money back than they pay to the federal government. So they pay in $1, but they get $1.50 back. Are red states. They're red states. The Republicans always want to blame the Democrats, especially during COVID, and they said, you want to do these statewide COVID bailouts. But I'm sorry, 3 out of the top 10 are blue states. That means 7 out of the top 10 are red states. 7 of the top 10 states getting money from the federal government are Republican states, yet the Republicans always say states' rights, states' rights. The states should be self-sufficient. The states should have the ability to lead themselves and govern themselves. And not pay a bunch of taxes. Well, let's take a look at some stuff real quick. Return on statehood. How much value every state gets from the federal government, right? And this article isn't that old. This article was November 27th of 2022. 7 of the 10 states most dependent on federal government was Republican voting, with the average red state receiving $1.05 back for every dollar they spend. 29 states send more to the federal government than they receive, compared to just 9 states in 2021. So in 1 year, we increased the number of states that are getting more money back from the federal government than they send by 20. That's a huge increase. right? That's a huge increase. Of the states that send more than they receive, 52% were Democratic voting, 48% were Republican voting. New Mexico had the highest return on federal spending. For every dollar that New Mexico sends in tax money to the federal government, they get $3.69 back. Meanwhile, Delaware, for every dollar Delaware sends to the federal government in taxes, they only get 32 cents back. There is a huge problem here. This is absolutely a huge, massive, fundamental problem for why states are continuing to struggle and why the entire system is going swirly. Because what does that mean? That means that New Mexico can afford to put more money into schools out of the state budget. Meanwhile, Delaware, its state budget isn't going to have as much ancillary money, as much auxiliary money, as much discretional spending on schools or police or free clinics or, state-sponsored insurance or state-sponsored women's, infants, and children's. We need to break this cycle. The way this has to happen for the states is that we need to have a flat percentage based. The states take care of themselves. We need the states to be able to take care of themselves. And then we need the federal government to take care of the federal government things. And we need to stop having the federal government manage the states. If a bridge in Illinois needs to be replaced, rebuilt, then Illinois should pay for that. Unless it's a bridge in Illinois that is a federal road. And then the federal government should pay for that. But what should happen there is the federal government should come up with a budget and then say to the states, this is what you owe us. Not taxing, and I'm going to show you these ridiculous tax brackets in a minute, but not taxing the populace in such a way as to try to run the federal government fair and equally. And remember, those two words have radical different meaning. Fair and equal are not synonyms. Fair and equal absolutely have their own have their own definitions. So how much does your state spend on or how much does your state depend on federal funding? Well, you can see that the dark states are the most dependent, right? So you can see this, everybody's kind of, dependent. Federal funds as a percentage of state revenue, 18% of the Illinois, the revenue that Illinois generates, 18% of that comes from the federal government. 32% of Montana, 32% of New Mexico, 33% of Alaska, 20% for Florida, 20% for Texas, 17%. You see, everybody's getting money back, right? Everybody's getting money back from the federal government. You're getting money back. So my question is, why don't we just not take that money out of the states? If 18% of Illinois' budget is coming from if 18% of Illinois' budget is coming from the federal government, then just don't send that money to the federal government to get lost and washed and wasted. I got a caller saying, what you are not accounting for, farm counties don't make money, but you need them. So if your state is mostly farmland, you think they should just fail? No, I don't think that at all. And here's the problem. That's a great statement, but give me 10 more words out of it. See, you're telling me what I'm not accounting for. Have I mentioned farmland at all? I'm calling you out specifically because what you've just done is indicative of the problem. You haven't asked me what my opinion on farmlands is. You haven't asked me a single piece about what about agricultural based states. And I'm going to remind you, where this cursor is hanging out over is my state. I don't hide the fact I'm from Illinois. So you think that a political scientist from the state of Illinois doesn't have some thoughts on how we're going to accommodate agricultural based states? I remind people all the time, I'm in the middle of a German farming town. I have thousands of acres of farmland that surround me. If I go that way, there's hundreds of acres of farmland. If I go that way, there's hundreds of acres of farmland, 2 subdivisions, and then thousands of acres, uninterrupted acre. In fact, I just drove through the neighboring town where there are thousands of acres, undisrupted, major farm after major farm after major farm. So what you've done is the standard textbook. You're not going to ask me what I think. You're not going to ask me what my plan is. You're telling me that I'm not accounting for farm counties. How am I not accounting for farm counties? Farm counties don't make money. What do you mean farm counties don't make money? What do you mean farmers don't make money? Farmers don't get paid? Farmers don't pay real estate tax? Farmers don't get federal kickbacks to plow their crops under? If your state is mostly farmlands, you think they should just fail. I never said that. See, the problem is that if I took that as an offense, then I would start attacking you because you've just attacked me. And then what does it get that? If you look at most of the states that make money, they have the largest cities. The income tax revenue is massive. Okay, that is completely irrelevant. A city, just because you have a metropolis area, in, for example, Chicago, they make money, but on what? What do they make money on? No, it's not. Yes, it is. I'm telling you, here's the thing, you may not like this. I'm telling you that your statement of, if you look at the states that make money, they have the largest cities. The income tax revenue is amazing, is massive. Right. But that's completely irrelevant because the amount of bills they have for having those structures. Do you think that the city of Chicago doesn't have a massive police force bill? Do you think LA doesn't have a massive tax bill for their police and fire? Do you think New York doesn't have a massive tax bill for their police and fire? The problem is that if you say the cities, the metropolis areas make these massive amounts of money, you are correct, but that they're not making massive amounts of profit. See, my little podunk town of 10,000 people gets away with having about a 7-person police department. The city of Chicago, I don't know the number off the top of my head. Let's find out. The city of Chicago police force size. 11,900 uniformed police officers versus 7. So what you're saying is I don't care about farm counties. I don't care about farm states. Everything south of, Springfield, everything south of Kankakee in Illinois is farm county. Millions of acres. But you're saying I don't care about them. You're saying the states that make the most money have the largest cities. The income tax revenue is massive. Right. So are the bills. Chicago, the city of Chicago has 11,700 uniformed police officers. Who pays that bill? That bill comes from the income tax revenue. But the problem is that you have states that have to give more money to the federal government than they get back, and then they have to support that massive amount of infrastructure. See, the biggest piece of advice I can give you there is don't tell me what I'm not accounting for. Show me where I'm not accounting for it, and you can't do that. If you try to show me something that says what I'm not accounting for is these agricultural areas, you'd be flat wrong because I come from a state that is deep in agriculture. I told the story recently that a number of the farmers around here have lost their federal grant to not farm. 400 and 800 acre farms. So what is 1,600 total acres of corn land, the farmer is now selling because he hasn't had to bring in a crop in 15 years. For 15 years, he has gotten a paycheck from the federal government to plow under his land and I think that's one of the dumbest things ever, but it is what they do. And so he gets paid for the last 15 years to plow his land under. And now he's been told you're not getting that grant anymore. The three brothers that own all the land, they're selling the land to turn into subdivisions because they don't want to go back to being farmers. They've just gotten so accustomed to grow crop, let it be seen that we grew it. Guy comes along, says plow it under, have a check. But don't say that I'm not counting for farmlands. Show me. Tell me what I'm not. Montana, 32% of their money comes from the federal government. I would say that Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, all heavy agriculture, if not necessarily agriculture, but ranching. Idaho over here, potatoes. I would say this is a big agricultural / livestock area. I'm not saying that they should fail. When did I ever say they should fail? And how did we ever even get to the point where we were talking about failure or success? What does failure even look like? I think you got so emotionally attached for whatever your attachment to agriculture is that you immediately thought that I was saying that something bad should happen to your state. I never said anything bad should happen to your state. You say that those counties don't make money. Well, let's talk about the root problem then. You're telling me farmers aren't making money? That's the problem. If the farmers aren't making money, let's talk about that problem. Let's not try to fix the farmers aren't making money problem while we're talking about the taxes. Let's talk about why aren't farmers making money. And if you give me some talking points, we can turn a whole show into that. Is the path of money sent in return public information? It'd be interesting to see where that 18% is going. So that's not how it works. Some of it is. Some of it's traceable. Because some of it you can see, like in the Department of Education budget, they'll say we get whatever, the budget's $100 million and we get $12 million from the federal government. Some of it is. Other parts of it are for specific projects. You're rebuilding a bridge on a federal interstate. You're rebuilding a bridge on the I-55. So the federal government agrees to fund 42% of the bill, which I think is a problem. I think that's part of our problem. Instead of the federal government saying we're going to pay 42% of this bridge, the federal government should say, nope, that's on the I-55. That's on us. We're going to pay for the bridge. And then they should take care of it. It shouldn't. Maintaining federal infrastructure should not become a state problem. It should be a federal problem. The Army Corps of Engineers should take care of it. Not, hey, we're going to fund 42% of it. Take care of it. The other thing is on that piece, right, of states getting money back. This is a different year, looking at a different year. In this one, 8 of the 10 states most depend on the federal government traditionally vote Republican. New Mexico, number 2, is the only state in the top 10 to vote for a Democratic candidate in any of the last 6 presidential elections. Maine splits its delegates. On average, federal funding makes up 39% of state revenues. This is my concern. My concern is, again, we're taking money out of the state, shuffling it around, washing it, and then saying, we're going to give a little bit of your money to one state. Like Wyoming, you can see here, Wyoming gets more funding than Hawaii. I think the problem here is Hawaii should have their money so that they can develop Hawaii. And if Wyoming needs help, then that's when Wyoming has to figure out, well, what are we doing wrong? If Wyoming has bills that aren't theirs, they should say, federal government, these are yours. But some of these states are growing, right? Some of these states are growing at a rate because they're growing on everybody else's dollar, and I'm against that. I'm against, so that we're completely transparent, I'm against foreign aid, completely against foreign aid. We shouldn't be giving foreign aid to any countries. Because we have Americans that are freezing to death, and that snap cold that we had, what you won't see on the headlines, but it's buried. We have Americans that when it hit -4 degrees in Southern Illinois, we had veterans freeze to death because there's no money to fix the the Department of Veterans Affairs. But meanwhile, and my heart goes out to the people in the Ukraine. They were invaded, and the world has done nothing. I mean, we've sent them aid and munitions and weapons and food and bullets and beans and blankets, but my heart goes out to the people of the Ukraine for what has happened to them in the past and what is currently happening to them now. But not to the point where an American veteran should freeze to death under a piece of cardboard underneath an overpass because it went to -4 degrees Fahrenheit ambient temperature. If we have $850 billion to send to the Ukraine, then we have $850 billion to spend on revamping the Department of Veterans Affairs. You guys heard me mention on my gaming show, and then I said I'd talk about it today. The Buffalo Bills are getting $850 million to build a new stadium, right? But they are going to be a new $1.4 billion stadium. Right? Let me pop this up on the screen so people can see this one. New York taxpayers shell out a record $850 million for the New York Bills stadium. If approved, would include $600 million from the state and $250 million from Erie County in an effort to keep the Bills in Buffalo for decades to come. The combined $850 million for the new Bills facility would set a record for the most public money ever spent on an NFL stadium. A $1.4 billion stadium, right? What you don't notice, and I don't know if it's going to talk about it here, I'm glad that they talk about the great things. The Bills will stay in Buffalo for another 30 years. The project will create 10,000 union jobs, and New Yorkers can rest assured that their investment will be recouped by the economic activity the team generates, right? The team has to commit to staying for 30 years, would be worth it due to $27 million a year in taxes the team will generate. Okay. 30 years times 27 million is 810 million. 810 million. But you're giving them 850 million. We do you guys see where even in the news story, right? Even in the news story, it's going to generate $810 million, right? It's going to generate $810 million. You're giving them 850, but you literally say their investment will be recouped by the economic activity the team generates. I'm at a loss, but I don't think what this article talks about is, you know what breaks my heart? $800 million. There was a if you guys didn't see this one, and this kills me, and this is what's completely, this is why our country, and I say this is why I do the show, this is why we play the game right here. New York proposes $800 million cut to child services after giving $850 million to an NFL owner. A weekly email newsletter of news, blah blah blah. A school built in a homeless shelter, and it helps students in the classroom. The billionaire owner of the Buffalo Bills is getting $850 million in public subsidies for a new football stadium. And we're cutting $800 million into child services. Does anybody else think that that's just completely wrong? We're denying children taxpayer aid, which is the whole reason why most people are willing to pay taxes to take care of children, to take care of the future generation. But we're going to cut an $800 million program for child services in order to give money to an NFL owner. Go back to a couple of comments that people have made. The amount of foreign aid we provide is absolutely insane, but I guess the only exception is when we've signed treaties to protect nations. Ukraine, Japan comes to mind. The problem is we're irresponsible with our spending and neglect our own people. It's such a simple concept. In an airplane, you put a mask on before you help others to get theirs on. Yeah, that is a great statement right there. If you're ever on an aircraft and you have children, this is one, and I've had to teach my wife and remind my wife of this. My wife is the absolute best medic I've ever seen. My wife will charge into danger to save a person. But when it comes to our children, right? When it comes to our children, my wife suddenly becomes like a -3 IQ. My wife can save other people's children every day of the week, twice on Sunday. When it comes to our own kids, she makes mom decisions, not medic decisions. When you're on an airplane, if the masks come down, you got to get your own mask on first before you help your kid. Because if you can get the mask on your kid, then because it's going to take you longer to get the mask on your kid than it is going to get the mask on yourself. If you get the mask on yourself, now you're not going to be suffering from hypoxia while you're trying to get the mask on your kid. It works out. I got to save my kid. Well, you can't save anybody if you don't save yourself first. Billions of money not tracked to Ukraine while we have vets on the street. I volunteered for a rescue mission and saw vets freezing and hungry. I had to walk outside and take a breath because I was so pissed. Yeah. We'd get arrested in the military for misappropriation of funds. Yes, we will. I managed billions with a B, billions of dollars. I oversaw billions of dollars worth of product. Jet fuel, diesel fuel, E85 MoGas. I had to keep track of what I was authorizing to be disposed of, because if I didn't, then I would cause a ripple in the budget. Big thing here, you guys are going to get even angrier at other stuff coming up. And this I think is where I talk about the big tax reform. Now, big problem I have here. Get ready to hold back your anger. You look over here. For the continental United States and the District of Columbia, if you are a single person, if you make less than $13,590, we call you poor. We say you are living in poverty. Okay? Now, when I go to the IRS page, the standard deduction is only $12,950. So I've done an entire video on this, taxing people into poverty, but the punchline of the joke is this. One side of the government says you're in poverty if you make $13,590 or less. You're in poverty. But the IRS says you only need $12,950 a year to survive, which means you owe taxes on $640. And you pay 12% income tax on that. And for anybody who's like, no, it's 10. No, it's right there. 12% income tax. 12% income tax for incomes over $10,275. $10,000 income tax for single individuals with incomes of $10,000 or less. Well, of course, if you make less than $12,950, you owe zero because everything is the deduction, the standard deduction. What you're saying is that you owe 12% of income tax on the money between your standard deduction and your poverty line. That means you pay $76.80 in income tax on the money. You give the government $76.80 of your money that you need to get out of poverty. Now, you guys know that my opinion on this is I don't agree with a $15 minimum wage, because I do not feel a minimum wage will ever fix the problem. A minimum wage will never fix the problem because you get the accordion. We give everybody $15 an hour, and then for a little bit of time it fixes the problem, and then inflation hits, and now people need another minimum wage, and the inflation hits. And the price of labor hasn't been factored in because people are willing to take jobs. And I talk about this in consumerism. Job etiquette and consumerism are two sides of the same coin. If you say that this, what does fix the problem? Here, I got you. I got you. What fixes the problem is this. Start rolling back all the taxes I'm about to talk about. If you think people need $31,200 a year to live, and that $31,200 is, Bernie Sanders says $15 hour minimum wage. So what you do is you times that by 2,080, which gives you $31,200. That should be the standard deduction. You shouldn't pay any taxes until you make $31,201 a year. The reason why a minimum wage doesn't fix the problem is in my town, you can live pretty much a decent lifestyle on about $1,300 a month. About $1,300 a month. So for about $15,600, you can live a decent lifestyle because you can work at the local gas station or McDonald's or the coffee shop or the Subway or one of the bars. You can make your money, right? You do about $8, $9 an hour by the time it all washes out. You get a $525 apartment. They're nice apartments. You buy groceries, you get utilities, and then you have some spending money. The problem becomes people want to live outside their means. And we talk about responsibility and personal finance all the time. You end up having people that are complaining that they can't live on $31,200 a year, but you're looking at, am I living in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Atlanta? You can't live on $31,200 in any of those places. But then you say you raise minimum wage for everybody, and now the people living in my town, you double the amount of money they need. Because like I said, about $1,300 a month, about $1,300 a month is what you need to live in this town. You suddenly double it. Now you got a bunch of people making $31,200. Well, if you're making $31,200, are you really saving that? Because, and you guys know I say this all the time, 30% gets spent on your wants, 30% gets spent on your needs, 40% goes into savings. 4 out of every $10 you make should be going into a savings account. And I agree, most of you can't do that. I absolutely understand most of you can't do that. The thing is, if you ever owned a business, you know a blanket $15 an hour can kill small companies. You're right. When you set up in these small like we have an Ace Hardware in town, which is convenient because you guys know for where I'm at geographically, it's about 20 minutes to the Lowe's. Because I'm about 20 minutes outside of the neighboring town, which is considered the big town. 20 minutes there and 20 minutes back and 20 minutes in the store looking for what I need. That's an hour out of my day, but that's also gas. When I'm fixing something in the house, it's not uncommon that, you know, when you're fixing an old house or an older house, you're like, okay, I didn't know I'm going to need that. This is done wrong. This is hung wrong. This is mounted wrong. So you end up having to make 2 or 3 trips to the store because it's kind of like piecemeal work. I didn't know I needed to do this until I did that. I didn't know I needed to do that until I did the other thing. Well, I don't want to drive all the way to Lowe's for a $1 bolt. So I go to Ace Hardware in town, and that $1 bolt costs me about $1.90. But that's the convenience fee. That's the small town fee. If that Ace had to suddenly start paying other people $18 or $15 an hour, I don't think that Ace Hardware would be there anymore. I think that they wouldn't make profit, and they would say we're closed. Now everybody has to drive to the Lowe's. The only people that benefit from raising the minimum wage unilaterally, federally, across the board is the big corporations. Am I saying that the state of Illinois shouldn't raise the minimum wage? Yes. So, one thing I learned is the IRS actually taxes a company for each hour paid to an employee. So I think this is stupid because it creates an incentive to pay less. This is correct. But the piece to that is the employee gets taxed for every hour they work as well because the employee pays self-employment tax. Remember, if you own your own business, then the business pays half of the employment tax. The employee pays half of the employment tax. So the problem is, in some cases, it works out better to be an independent contractor. In other places, it works out better to be an employee. If I have to come to and this is why the government is finally kind of making a stand on this. If I have set hours and I have to come to your establishment during those set hours every day, and you fill my day with tasks every single day, I'm not an independent contractor. I'm an employee, and you have to pay me as an employee so that you have to shoulder the burden of, what is it, 7.2% of my self-employment tax? But when you don't, when you have people that are willing to take jobs as independent contractors, they don't realize that the self-employment tax is a tax on top of your income tax. You have to pay your own FICA, FUTA, Social Security, Medicare, all that jazz. You're paying both halves of that. And so there's like Twitch streamers. There's a lot of Twitch streamers who got themselves in trouble because now the IRS is finally catching up. Remember that accordion press. Hey, what's this content creation thing? Oh, Ninja's making 50 million, Shroud's making 8 million, 32 million on his long-term deal. The IRS is like, we need to get involved in that. If you guys didn't know this, in 2019, they changed the way hobby income works. Hobby income deductions are basically gone now. You have it's really convoluted. It's really hard to explain. But in the past, if I made these in the other room, if my wife made these in the other room, my wife bought the vinyl, she bought the decal, she bought the thermos, she put these together, she bought the box, and she shipped them, then she would be able to basically say, I sold it for 30, but all of my expenses take me down to 8. So I only owe taxes on the $8, assuming I don't have like a defect. If I make 2 of these, I ruin one, I make $8, but I lost $22, then you just say this is hobby income. Well, then Donald Trump came into office, and he was good for a lot of things, not everything. And one of the things they looked into was, we need to change the way hobby income works, because there's a lot of people making a lot of money on hobby income, but they're not legitimately doing their thing, right? Yeah, I'll look at that in 1 second, because I've seen that before. Now, because you got people that are making hundreds of thousands a year, but they're not paying self-employment tax. Have you ever looked up the cost of bread? Well, there are 151 taxes now in the price of a loaf of bread. It accounts for more than half of the cost of a loaf of bread. You're right. You're absolutely right. There's taxes on everything. I'm going to talk about the next piece, property tax. I'm going to talk about the next piece, which is, well, actually, hold on. I'm going to look at this, because I like looking at stuff that's given to me during the shows as well. Let's look at this one. While supplemental COVID unemployment benefits have mostly expired, the authors found that even existing... Nope, that's not it. Hold on. There we go. While supplemental COVID unemployment benefits have mostly expired, the authors found that even with the existing unemployment benefits, including Affordable Care Act subsidies, an adult would have to earn more than $80,000 a year from a 40-hour-a-week job to have the same after-tax income as certain families with 2 unemployed spouses receiving government benefits. Unemployment benefits are time-limited, usually 6 months, but sometimes longer. Here are the annualized rate for the 50 states for 2 unemployment adults with 2 dependent children. So if you are in Washington, your unemployment's giving you an hourly wage equivalent of $31. You have to get down. Mississippi only has 9. Florida, Tennessee, Arizona, Louisiana have 11. Michigan, Alabama, the Carolinas, Georgia, Wisconsin, and Missouri are 13. Indiana, New Hampshire, Maryland, Virginia are 14, and everybody else is 15 and above. I 100% agree that what the Democrats did during COVID, forcing a $15 an hour minimum wage, because they gave you a $600 kicker. on top of your state unemployment. So $600 is divided by 40 is 15. If anybody doesn't realize that's what happened during COVID, is the federal government made it so everybody was making $15 an hour on unemployment. Now, my problem with that is this. There are people who didn't go back to work for as long as they could. They stayed on unemployment as long as they could. I'm not against the idea of unemployment. I think unemployment is a great thing because you can't have people that suddenly lose their job for certain reasons, and for certain reasons only. You can't have somebody that suddenly loses their job and then is left destitute. For example, I lost my job and I was left destitute. I took my Catholic school teacher paycheck, which is $0, by the way, guys. It's being a Catholic school teacher doesn't pay anything. I took that money over 9 months instead of 12 months because I needed to eat. I needed to go to school. I was finishing up my MA. What happened was my school closed. Because my school closed, I was eligible for unemployment. Because I took my paycheck over 9 months, I could get unemployment over the summer and finally get a breather. I didn't have to work as many hours at, side hustle jobs because I was pulling unemployment. The thing is that the teachers that took their paycheck over 12 months, they didn't get unemployment. And some of them are mad at me. They were genuinely mad at me. They were like, I can't believe you're getting, we all got laid off. I can't believe you're getting unemployment and I'm not. I was like, well, I'm not getting a paycheck for the next 3 months and you are. But at the end of the day, that's still nonsense. You've got somebody that elected to take their check over a 12-month period, so that blocks them from getting unemployment. They already worked for those hours. They already worked for that money. They're not currently employed, but because of the way their payments are, they're not eligible for unemployment. I want to show you guys this one because this is, we talk about wealth all the time, and I know a lot of people get confused about wealth. So this is the property tax. What are property tax based on? Property taxes, a comparative look at the highest to lowest states. Property taxes or real estate taxes are paid by a real estate owner to a county or local authority. So that those of you that aren't American understand, we don't own our property. We basically lease our property because we have to pay a tax on our property. Property taxes are based on the state tax rate, the assessment ratio, and the property value. Okay. Sounds really great. You're going to pay a proportional rate for the value of your home. I'm going to show you a complete breakdown of the system. We're going to start with Hawaii. Hawaii has the lowest real estate taxes in the 50 states. So in Hawaii, you pay 0.28% real estate taxes. So your average home price is $615,300. Your annual property tax would be $606, right? Now I'm going to roll down to my state because my state is the second worst. Illinois, 50, because District of Columbia is in here too. 2.27% average real estate tax. Average home price is $194,000. So you pay $4,942 annually, right? Annually in property taxes. I want you to think about this here for a second. In Illinois, you pay 8.1 times what Hawaii pays, yet you have 68% less wealth in equity. Because again, in Illinois, your home is $194,000. In Hawaii, your home is $615,000. Yet Illinois is getting 18% of its budget from the federal government. So how is Hawaii doing it? The tourism industry? Okay. This takes me back to what Zomac said. Well, the states with the largest metropolis should be generating wealth. Well, I think Illinois has one of the top 3 cities in the country. So why do we have a 2.27% real estate property tax? If we look at California, people always think that California is ridiculous. California only pays 0.76% in property taxes on average. I know some neighborhoods, some districts, some suburbs, whatever, have a higher imposed rate. But because mine is, where I live isn't 2.27 either. Mine is closer to 4%. My county and my town, because we have one of the best high schools in the state, or one of the best school systems in the state, I pay close to 4% by the time you add on everything else. Now, in Illinois, there are some counties that in order to protect the agriculture people, they don't charge property tax, or it's like 0.5%, but you have an average. How do they expect anybody to build wealth if 2% of your property, 2% of your property you're spending every year in property tax? Chicago has major income issues, so many companies are leaving that city. Chicago has Cook County. Chicago's in Cook County, which is one of the worst counties in the country for taxes, sales taxes. When everything you buy incurs an additional cost, and we're going to talk about sales tax here in a second. When every single thing that you buy incurs an additional cost, it becomes very, very, very difficult to run a business. Now, I don't think that property taxes are bad. I'm 100% for property taxes. But I'm against how states don't use them properly. As I said, I pay for almost 4% in property taxes because I have one of the best school districts in the state. The trick is, there are less than 20 miles from here, there's a school district which is horrible. And then 20 more miles past that, there is a school district where parents will do anything they can to get their kids out of that school district. If the children are the future, why are we funneling state money into schools that get better test results? Did you guys know that's how a lot of schools get their money? The better your test results, the more money you get from the state. Shouldn't that be the other way around? Shouldn't the schools that are getting bad test results get more money so they can get the test results up? My town, I don't understand why my town took out 7 different bonds to build this football stadium for the high school kids. My town is junk bond rated. My town can't get another bond because it doesn't pay its bonds back very quickly. They built a high school football stadium that was supposed to generate them all kind of money. And then COVID hit. And now they can generate as much money as they want for all these events. But they can't get out from under the debt that they are because the city is supposed to get a cut of all the school events to pay off these bonds. The only thing that saved my town is Boeing decided to put a farmer decided to sell 1,000 acre plot of land to Boeing, and Boeing's putting a huge facility on it. Going to bring 650 jobs to the town. They're going to be opening like 4 or 5 or 10 new fast food places in the next couple of years. That's going to create more jobs, more wealth, more taxes. More wealth is more taxes. I hear people say all the time, I shouldn't have to pay for schools. I don't have kids in schools. We've talked about school reform. Kids are the future. If we don't give the kids, if we don't give the kids a future, we're never going to get out of this problem. It won't last long, maybe 10 years if you're lucky. What'll last 10 years? The Boeing facility? No, the Boeing facility will be around for as long as the Air Force Base is right next to it. And this Air Force Base is never going anywhere. No, Boeing's solid. Yeah, when people say I shouldn't have to pay for the schools, that was stupid because I'm sure they went to school once. Now, in my case, when I was getting ready to do this episode, I thought back to something my dad said. I remember my dad was sitting there one day and he looking at the property tax bill, and my dad was like, "This is ridiculous. I pay all this money in taxes for the school, and you don't even go to the school." Well, I think that's another thing. I think if you want to send your kid to a private school, then the voucher system should I think the voucher system should be revamped completely. But the way the voucher system needs to work is the school should be, and the school can do this. The school can produce how much money per student it takes to run the school. And if I don't go to that school and I go to a private school, then the school should have to send my money to the private school. Notice I didn't say that the school should have to send my tuition to the private school, because if the private school is $5,000 a year and the public school takes $2,500 to educate a kid, then that $2,500 should go over to the private school, and then I have to pay the other $2,500. And when people say, well, that'll just hurt the public schools because they'll lose funding. No, it won't hurt them, because they shouldn't have that funding anyway, because I'm not going there. Now, the people across the street that have no kids, their money goes to the public school, and that's what bridges the gap. Because the people across the street have zero value gained from the school, but 100% of their money goes into a kid, for a kid that's not getting educated, because there's nobody there from their address. This is also going to be a radical statement. I understand that landlords are the devil in the eyes of many people. Landlords are the problem. The big problem here is, I think that if you go to if you live in an apartment, then you should have a certain percentage of your child's school tuition that you should have to pay. Or landlords should have to pay more. If you guys aren't aware of this, landlords pay a property tax based on the value of the structure, not the income of the business. So if it's a $500,000 apartment complex, then the land, and they don't pay based on 500,000, they pay on this formula. But that apartment complex could be making more than $500,000 a year, but it's only being taxed at the value of the building, not the value of each unit. And that's a problem. So if you have, for example, you have a apartment building and you're charging $1,000 a month rent, right? And $12,000 a year in rent for each unit, and you have 42 units, right? So you have 42 units and you're making $12,000 a year. That means a year you're making $504,000. Which means that's what the landlord should be paying the property tax on, not the value of the building, because you have all these people in there, and if they all have kids, there's a disproportionate ratio of how much that landlord is paying for the total number of kids that go there versus me in a single family dwelling. Now, I don't believe what a lot of people say, landlords are the devil and you shouldn't be allowed to rent property, because a lot of people don't put 10 more words onto that. There's a guy who he's building another 300 units in my town. If he didn't invest that money, that would be 300 less units of housing available. I get that people are angry that they can't secure housing, but going after the landlords isn't the problem. The bank, where the bank says, and I'm going to tell you, I advocate against this left, right, and center. If you're paying a $1,200 a month mortgage, or if you're paying $1,200 a month in rent, the bank should give you a mortgage if it's $800. If your mortgage is equal to or less than what you're currently paying in rent, and you've been maintaining that rent for a year, maybe 18 months, then the bank should be required to give you a mortgage. Now, maybe not at $1,200. Maybe a law should be passed that says if you can demonstrate that you've been paying $1,200 a month in rent for 18 months, then the bank is required they cannot deny you a mortgage for anything less than $800 a month. There's a lot of people that would get into starter homes, but they can't. At the same time, a lot of those people that have challenged me when I said, you just hate poor people. I'm like, I don't hate poor people. I used to be a poor person. I was a poor person. I didn't have enough butter to scrape across the bread because I didn't have butter, and I was glad I had any bread. And butter was a luxury. And I say to people, you're saying that you can't get a mortgage. I said, tell me the rest of the story. I filed for bankruptcy. Well, no kidding. That's why you can't get a mortgage. Well, a bankruptcy is supposed to allow me to start over. Yeah, a bankruptcy is to allow you to start over. That doesn't mean the bank needs to take a risk on you. Tell people the whole story. I'm paying $1,200 a month in rent. I'm paying $1,200 a month in rent, but I can't get a mortgage from the bank for $800. Yeah, because you have $50,000 in credit card debt. Landlords that own the property make good money, but when you're paying a loan, you don't make a lot of money, and sometimes if a renter doesn't pay, you can't even make ends meet. Yeah, that's the piece that other people don't, or the complainers don't recognize about landlords. I bought a $500,000 building. Right? And I said earlier you'd have to have 42 units in it. You probably aren't getting 42 units for $500,000. If we're being honest, $500,000 is probably going to get you 6 to 8 units. Right? So you got to figure out, let's say 8 units. So you have $500,000, right? Divided by 8 units. That's $62,500 each unit needs to cover. Well, now you have $62,500. You need to figure out what you can rent that place out for. So if I do $550 a month, it takes 113 months to pay off. That's 9.5 years. That's 9.5 years per unit. If I never have vacancy, if I never have failure to pay, if I never have downtime, that doesn't include when I have to flip the property, got to go in there, put in new carpet, put in new paint. And a lot of people that don't understand the business, they say, well, that's what the landlord makes all this money. How many people want to start making profit about 11 years after a $500,000 investment? Not many. If you think about it, if you buy a $200,000 house, right? And a $200,000 house never costs $200,000, and you divide that out by $1,600 a month for rent. That's still 10.4 years. That's 10.4 years till you own the building. And if you have to flip that 3 times because you have non-paying tenants or tenants who leave, that might be somewhere between 13 and 14, 15 years before you own the building. You don't start making any profit for 13, 14, 15 years. That's why I say to people they ask me about getting into housing, there's this guy that makes TikToks, and I want to find him, and I want to just, do horrible, unspeakable things to him, because he's telling people, if you have $200,000, don't buy 1 rental property in cash, buy 5 rental properties in cash. Why? It doesn't change anything. Now you're still waiting 15 years because each one has to pay itself off. If you buy 1 in cash, then that one starts making you profit because you own it. Now you have a renter for $1,000 a month for 3 years, 36 months. That's $36,000. At the end of renting that, right? $6,000 to flip the place, clean it back up. $30,000 that you put down on the next one. Now the first one and the second one are both paying for the second one, plus whatever you're adding in on top. That's how you do it. But all these, and again, you guys know my feelings. I think TikToks are great for cat videos. Dog videos, humorous videos. If you're getting your business advice from a TikTok, you're getting really bad business advice. Next thing I want to talk about, for anybody that doesn't recognize this, we got a lot of Europeans and other areas of the world that follow my shows. Europeans are used to VAT, value-added tax. They're used to VAT being standard for their whole country. There is no national sales tax in the US, therefore no standard rate. Sales or use tax vary by state, ranging from 2.9 to 7.25% at the state level. In addition to the state rate, local governments are in 35 states impose an additional sales tax or use tax ranging from 1 to 5%. So you're paying taxes to the federal government on your check. No matter what state you live in, you pay federal taxes. Some states don't have state income tax. Some states have sales tax. Some states don't have sales tax. Some counties have it. Some counties don't. Some local municipalities don't have it. Some don't. But we talked about property tax, income tax, and now we're talking about sales tax, right? States with the highest total sales tax are Tennessee at 9.5%, Louisiana 9.5%, Arkansas 9.5%, Washington 9.2%, Alabama 9.2%. States with the lowest sales tax, Alaska, Oregon, Delaware, Montana, and New Hampshire. How are these states doing it? Well, some of these states have no sales tax because they're receiving more money back from the government, the federal government, than they're sending in. I am not, right? I am not against sales tax. In fact, the crazy part of me says this. I know people like Grumpy Old Man because we've talked about it in the past. Flat tax rate. Flat tax. No deductions, no exceptions, no anything, no file, no IRS. Get rid of the IRS for individuals. IRS can stay in business for corporations and businesses. Get rid of the IRS for individuals. Flat tax rate. No deductions, no exemptions, no anything, just flat tax rate. Flat tax rate. Ready? If you want to make it really simple, you can have a graduated flat tax rate, but do it one that makes sense. 100,000 and less is this, $250,000 and less is this, $500,000 less is this, $500,000 and more is that. But right now, you have to be basically an accountant to figure out how to file your taxes. Is this a short-term or a long-term capital gain? Did I live in the property for 3 years? Was it my primary residence? Did I gift the property? Did I sell the property? Did I quitclaim deed the property? Did my family live together? Did my family live apart? If my family lived apart, did I file as head of household? Did I file as married filing jointly? Can I take this exemption? Can I take that exemption? There's like 70,000 pages of tax law. There's like 300 pages for how to file your taxes. And there's like 69,700 pages of exemptions to taxes for you to get out of paying them. That's why accountants in H&R Block and TurboTax and Tax Act and all these other online services lobby so much to keep the tax code complicated. If you didn't know why the tax code is so complicated, it's because the people at accountants want it to be expensive. I think a big part of this could be solved if we move to two things: a flat tax rate, just 4 brackets, nice and easy, and then a federal sales tax. Could you imagine how much money the federal government would make if they had a federal sales tax? I said back 25 years ago, spicy opinion here. 25 years ago, I said weed should be legal and they should just tax it. And guess what my state did? My state made weed legal, didn't decriminalize it. They made it legal. And they said, you know what? My state said, let's do this, right? So far, since 2020, right? Since 2020, Illinois weed tax, $560 million. $560 million in 2 years, right? $560 million, right? That also means 1.5 billion in cannabis sales. I'm sorry, 445 million last year. 1.5 billion in cannabis sales. Sales have remained relatively flat since peaking. The state saw marijuana tax increase by about 50% compared to the prior fiscal year. So let me do the math, because different articles, 445.3 plus 297.7, $743 million. right? $743 million. And that's just the taxes they paid, which probably, no. I will tell you this, in my state, there is absolutely no shenanigans. There is no shenanigans between there's no under the table, off the books, because if you don't have the sticker on your container, then it's illegal. You have because remember, it's legal. Yeah, they need to report inventory. I don't have one in here, but every single container that I get from the store. And by the way, for people who, why does Jay do weed? Because weed is a hell of a lot better than being on 4 psychotropic drugs. If I can take a pill, I don't smoke. I take them in tablet form. So instead of me needing to be on 4 medications every single day to stop panic attacks and episodes of paranoia and PTSD episodes, if I'm having a bad moment during the day, I have 1 set of tablets so I can stay up. I have another set of tablets if it's late enough in the day I can go to bed. I have a different tablet. That's why pharmaceutical companies are afraid of weed, because you can put it in a tablet and it helps veterans with PTSD. And you guys know I would never tell you something that I don't believe in. I actually believe in it. But there's a barcode on the side. There's no shenanigans. They report inventory. They have to. There's no playing around. There's no playing around with it. For example, I can go to. There's 2 stores near me. One of them, if I want my tax break, if I want to use my card, I have to go to the dispensary. The dispensary is about 40 minutes away, give or take. If I go to the closer place, I can do that, but I have to pay tax on it. So, to that end, Illinois officials announced last month the state is awarding $45 million in grants funded by marijuana tax dollars to support communities reinvested in areas hardest hit by the failed war on drugs. If you guys are familiar with the 80s, we had the war on drugs. It was the biggest criminal bullshit scheme, scam, whatever you want. We criminalized crack cocaine 5 times more stringently than we criminalized powder. There are more black people serving time in jail for crack possession than there are white people serving time in jail for cocaine possession. It's the same drug. It's just the rich people version versus the poor people version. I love the fact that Illinois is taking a portion of their marijuana income revenue to undo damages that were for an entire culture of people. They also, the Illinois generated $100 million more in tax revenue from adult use marijuana sales than alcohol. 100 million in 2 years. Weed has replaced alcohol, and let's be honest. Most car accidents for DUI, DWI are from opioid painkillers and alcohol. People doing weed aren't interested in driving around; they're interested in sitting somewhere. I mean, some of them drive, but they're, for the most part, we didn't see a huge spike in drivers under the influence of marijuana. So much so that officials announced that 149 new marijuana retail licenses for social equity applicants were approved. You're definitely changing the state by legalizing the lettuce, right? Legalizing the lettuce. Just now starting to see don't drive high ads. Yeah. And the thing is you're just starting to see don't drive high ads. The lettuce. Oh man, you got to go over to my other channel because I am the man, the myth, and the lettuce. With that said, you guys ready for the other spicy take? Republicans ain't going to like me. Republicans ain't going to like me. I'm a Republican and Republicans ain't going to like me. GOP leader McCarthy elected Speaker of the House on the 15th vote. 15 votes in order for us to get a Speaker of the House. 15 votes. McCarthy elected House after days of painstaking deal making Historic vote, concessions to the hard right. Elected Speaker of the House after 15 rounds of voting. House Speaker holdouts get cheers, jeers, and shrugs. You guys know last week I talked about statesmen versus politicians, right? I'm just saying, if I walk, and this is me, and I mean this with all sincerity, if I walked in as the guy from my own party, my party has the majority. We're the majority party. Our votes by party lines put me in the seat as Speaker of the House. And I think you guys know, after years and years and years of watching me, I have a certain level of integrity. After 5 votes, I would have stepped down. I would have said, I clearly don't have the ability to get my own party to vote for me. And I can't get any Democrats to cross the aisle. There ain't nothing gonna get done in the House of Representatives for the next 2 years. We can't even get bipartisan support for the Speaker of the House. The funny thing, no one else was better. Okay. Appreciate that, Zetrix. That is the core of the issue. There is nobody else better. There isn't a better option. I am tired of my political structure being the lesser of the evils, right? I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being led by people with 6-figure incomes and double-digit IQs. I'm tired of it. I am absolutely ready to start a crowdfunding program for finding an island that has power and running water that the smart ones of us, we can go live in, right? I want to go live on an island. I want to go live on an island with my community, because it would be like, my community would be the kind of people that be like, hey guys, I need about 6 of you. Some trees got knocked down. Can you guys go like rally the people? We need like 6 people on like the north end of town to clean up those branches. And the thing about my community is, I would look at 3 or 4 people and say, can you guys get about 6 folks to go up there? And my community would be, I'd look out there, there'd be 25 people, because my community would be like, this is my community and I have pride in it, and we got to get those sticks done. Or some of us would say, they would be like, I would love to do that, but I have a bad back, but I'm going to go buy a case of water and send it out for the people that are doing the manual labor. It would be like, hey guys, we need an extra $7 a week in taxes now, because we have to hire another teacher. And it would be like, we need $7 more a week in taxes because we need to hire another teacher, because so many people in this community have moved in. We need an extra teacher. We need another couple of teachers. Instead, it wouldn't be about, like, I feel that if you got shot in America right now, a doctor would be so afraid to help you because of all the laws, that a doctor would leave, and then they would say, well, I didn't know. I was busy. I was trying to get to work. I was trying to do whatever. And you'd have to be able to prove for a fact they knew. Our country is going to hell in a handbasket, and nobody cares. I know a lot of you don't like him, and I get that. I know a lot of you don't like Jordan Peterson. I know a lot of you don't like Ben Shapiro. And I'm going to throw a lot of topics out here, and now that we're done with the taxes segment, I'm going to throw a lot of topics out here real quick. I get that a lot of people are making the agenda transgender rights, LGBTQIAS plus rights and everything. I want to get that topic off the agenda. I'm tired of watching Ben Shapiro go to college campuses, and the 2 things that he gets asked questions about over and over and over again is transgender rights and gay and lesbian rights and socialism. I don't know how many more times Ben Shapiro can explain socialism. I don't know how many more times Ben Shapiro can explain that there is a difference between biological sex and gender. And the argument becomes transgenders want to be respected, and they want to be respected for things I don't even understand what it is you want. You want a level of rights and freedoms that I don't even enjoy, and you want to have rights and freedoms that I don't even enjoy, and you want me to want to give you those rights and freedoms. Notice what I say. It's not that you want those rights and I should give them to you. It's you want those rights and you want me to want to give you those rights. It's like Vince Vaughn and Jennifer Aniston in the breakup. I want you to do the dishes. Well, why? I want you to want to do the dishes. Why would I want to do dishes? I don't want to go downstairs and clean. I clean because I'm part of a household. My wife is my partner, not my mom. That's a good TikTok. My wife is my partner, not my mom. I clean up after my mess and 50% or more of Gizmo's mess. My wife cleans up after her mess and 50% of Gizmo's mess. My wife and I are a tag team. I do the cooking. I made an amazing shepherd's pie last night. I do the cooking. My wife does the dishes. My wife does the sous chef stuff. Hey, put these in the pot, salt the water, do this, shuffle the meat around, don't let it burn. My wife doesn't do the overview, she does the tasks. But then I clean the island. I clean the knives. My wife's not comfortable cleaning my sharp knives. It's teamwork, right? It's teamwork. There isn't woman's role in the house and man's role in the house. There is roles in the house. I know women who who mow the lawn, and they've said, "Well, why doesn't your husband mow the lawn?" And the woman says, "Because I like doing yard work and he likes cooking." Gay rights and transgender rights are a joke. It should just be rights. Absolutely. Absolutely. We should not be putting anything, equal rights, human rights, basic rights. See, you guys hear me say this all the time. I have never seen a social movement as disorganized or disenfranchised or disunited or disconjoined as the transgender and LGBTQ everything else. They don't understand that you're arguing two different things. And let me get the whole thing going on. You've got the LGBTQS plus, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, two-spirit. You got the other one, which is LGBTQIP2SAA. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, intersex, pansexual, two-spirit, asexual, ally. The only people that you don't have in there are straight. Instead of calling it AA, then call it H. You know what I'm saying? They even get offended if you call it alphabet soup. It's like even most members of alphabet soup can't lay it all out. Yeah, and that's the thing, man. I'm not trying to be condescending. I'm like, it's again, what do you want? What is it you want? What is it as a group of people that you want? If you've had kids, you've had this moment. You're trying to get something done and your kid keeps coming back to you and asking you piecemeal stuff. And finally you stop and you look at your kid and you say, what exactly do you want? Just tell me what you want. What is it you're interested in? I want to be able to force other people to call me by the pronouns I want them to call me by. Well, that's never going to happen. We've criminalized it in California. If I accidentally misgender you, I can be arrested and fined and all this. And I'm like, you know what? Then they wonder why people are going to get belligerent. And that's why my term, what pronoun do you use for other people? Fuckhead. Hey, fuckhead. Why do you call me that? It's gender neutral. I don't like being called a fuckhead. Well, I don't want to... See, I can call you a fuckhead because my First Amendment freedom of speech allows me to. And I can't get fined for it. Hey, you. Yeah. My go-to is dumbass. Hey, dumbass. And my thing... We want to be able to get married. Great. Then let's stop fumble fucking around. Let's stop Mickey Mousing around with what you want. You want to be able to get married? Great, let's do that. It's like earlier when Zomax said, you don't care about agriculture. And I was like, when did I ever say I don't care about agriculture? You don't care about gay and lesbian rights. Really? 50% of my children are either lesbian or bisexual. Tell me I don't care about my kids. I dare you. A huge reason why the transgender movement comes on so strong as discrimination from bullies mainly is extremely intense against gays and transgender individuals as they grow up. Here, I'm gonna be really insensitive for a moment. Cry me a fucking river. Because it wasn't any easier being an Irish kid who stuttered in the 70s and the 80s. Guess where I lived? An Irish neighborhood. Guess why I lived in an Irish neighborhood? Because the Irish people didn't pick on the Irish kids. But when you left that neighborhood, people seem to forget that we had rampant racism against Irish people into the mid 80s. Did people forget this? Did people forget that in the 70s, there was still no Irish need apply? Are people forgetting this? The problem I have is this, let me, I'm gonna show this one. I am not making fun of the, I'm not making fun of this guy. I want everybody to recognize I am not making fun of this individual. I'm gonna be sensitive, and I'm gonna say I am not making fun of this individual because of their desire, whatever, their transgender status, right? I don't care about what your status is. You're an individual to me. He's allowed to be frustrated. Starbucks barista crying video leaves internet divided as generations to clash online. A TikTok video of a barista named Avery having a meltdown over long working hours and rude customers has gone viral. Okay. Earlier this fall, fucking horrible grammar here. The 218-minute long video. No, the 218 long video posted has an employee claiming he is constantly crying. The employee in this video can be heard saying, "I'm literally about to quit. I don't know if I'm going to do it, but I really want to. I almost walked out today. I'm crying in the back room. I almost cried on the floor. I'm a full-time student. I get scheduled for 25 hours a week, and on weekends they schedule me the entire day, open to close. I'm on the schedule for 8.5 hours both Saturday and Sunday." The fuck are you whining about? You get 25 hours a week, and 17 hours of that is on Saturday and Sunday when you don't have class. What the fuck are you whining about? You're working 2 full-time shifts so that you don't work during the week. Needless to say, the video has become a hot topic. He's allowed to be frustrated at Starbucks and his crappy manager not pulling their weight. People keep bringing up 8-hour shifts, but he's working a job on top of being a full-time student would be tiring. He's having a vent. Okay. First of all, you don't go to class 40 hours a week. If you're going to class 40 hours a week in college, you're done doing something wrong. Because you should be going to class 3 contact hours per week by 5 classes. You should be in school, in class, 15 hours a week. And if you're taking Tuesday, Thursday classes, then that adds just a little bit on. At some universities, at others it doesn't. You should be doing 3 contact hours per week. 5 classes a week is full-time. That's 15. And then for every hour of contact time, you should have 2 to 3 hours of homework. So you should have between 30 and 45 hours of homework a week, plus your 15, 60 hours of your week is dedicated to school, right? Now, 60 hours of your week, right, divided by 7 is about 8.5 hours a day. and 8.5 hours a day at work. What does that leave you? That leaves you 6.8 hours a day to sleep. Well, what about my social life? What fucking social life? You're in school and you're working a job, right? And what I said was, 8.5 hours a day for work, 8.5 hours a day for sleep. This guy's got 168 hours minus 60 for school. 108 minus 25, right? What's 108 minus 25? 108 minus 25 is 83. 83 divided by 7, that's 11.8 hours a day left. You have half your day every day left. What are you whining about? What are you whining about? I'm going to keep going. Boo-hoo, tired trying working a full-time job and a part-time internship while going to school full-time. Yeah. Here, let me help you out for people that weren't there. Worked a full-time job, did a full-time course load because my course load was only 9 hours, but it was 9 graduate hours, and student taught. Okay. I worked a full-time job, 40 hours or more a week. I was a manager at a store. I taught from 8 to 3:30. Got to my store at 4, worked Monday through Friday, right? 4 to 9:30, right? For 5.5 hours a day, right? Now, I'm going to help you out when you're on salary. They don't really like you to not work your 40 hours a week. So 27.5 hours a week, Monday through Friday. I had to be there every day. I had to do shipment. I had to do payroll. I had to do scheduling. There wasn't a day of the week I couldn't go in. And then on the weekends, I would still have to pick up that other 12.5 hours. Some weekends I worked a 12.5 hour day. Some weekends I worked, a split. And then what else did I have to do? Grade papers, write assignments, do lesson plans. So yeah, try working a full-time job and a part-time internship while going to school full-time. I did it. I have the t-shirt. Internet divided over Starbucks employee. You people are weird to think overworking is a flex. My son is in the Royal Air Force working 12-hour shifts and doing a degree course as well. No social life and several hundred miles from home. He's knackered, but I'm proud of him. Prouder still he's not on Twitter mumping his gums about it. Working hard for a better life is admirable. You can't get there with an average effort or time in. Maybe work shouldn't be as hard as it is, but it is. It's an investment for a better future. See, here's my thing. I don't have a problem if you want to get on, I don't have a problem at all if you want to get on the internet and you want to bitch about how rude Starbucks customers are. If you get up there and you make a video about Starbucks customers being rude, you guys have heard me say all the time. If I would any company in the world can hire me to be the vice president of getting shit done, but you got to let me get shit done my way. You got to let me get shit done my way. Disney wants to hire me. Oh, we got a new vice president of getting shit done. People yelling at the Disney employees. I'm going to have cast members in black suits with an earpiece. Nope, I'm sorry, you're ejected from the park. You want to restore the magic to the Magic Kingdom? Start throwing out people. Start throwing out people. You're being an asshole. Get out. You can come back tomorrow. If you're an asshole tomorrow, you're going to get a lifetime ban. We're going to put the magic back in the Magic Kingdom. You're rude in a Starbucks. The manager should be empowered to say, nope, we're not taking your order. Get out. Hey, for everybody else, this asshole didn't get their coffee because they acted like an asshole. Get out. If you're going to be an asshole, get out. Whatever happened to sticks and stones can break my bones, but words will never hurt me. There is a variation on it now. There's a variation on it now. They've changed it. I'm trying to find the. I'm trying to find it real quick. because they've actually changed it. And I don't have it um, at the tip of my fingers, but it's changed from "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me," and it's changed to "Sticks and stones may break my bones. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will always hurt me." And then at the end, it's like, "Sticks and stones have left their mark on wounds that have recovered, but the words you've said have shaped my life, and that I'll always remember." There's a new one out there, and the thing is that I'm not saying that the world is perfect, and I've talked about it on my changing school reform, right? I've changed it on my school reform, or I've talked about changing schools on my school reform. We got to teach kids that the world is a dirty, nasty, ugly place. I think we are doing a huge disservice to people in general because we're coddling this bullshit behavior, right? We've got a group of elected representatives that took 15 votes to pick a Speaker of the House. You guys know that nothing happened in Congress, in the House of Representatives, because the very first order of business must be voting in the Speaker of the House. You can't do anything else until they're voted in. We got 435 people that can't agree on who their leader should be. It's not a big fucking surprise, folks. He's gonna be the Speaker of the House. Like I said, if it was me, because I'm a statesman, not a politician, after 5 failed votes, I would have gone out to the lobby. And I would have said, I just want to address the media. Apparently, I'm not the leader in the Republican Party that I thought I was. I can't even get the Republican Party to vote for me. And that means that I can't reach across the aisle to the Democrats because they're not interested in seeing me up there. So I'm the wrong person for the job, and I won't take the job now. And then the Republican Party is, and I'm going out for a smoke and figure it out. And as you know, we're so tied up in bipartisan politics. If you guys have never read the book Empire by Orson Scott Card, it is amazing. It is an amazing book where the guy who ends up manipulating all the strings ends up getting complete bipartisan, unanimous bipartisan support. It's an amazing read. Can I see this as a tactic to stop funding for the Ukraine? I mean, a lot of senators don't want to keep funding Ukraine, at least by watching the House on C-SPAN or whatever. Okay, you're crossing the House and the Senate. A lot of senators don't want... Yeah, Senate is our upper house. House is our lower house. A lot of senators don't want to support funding the Ukraine anymore. And that's because we're funding a proxy war. We're keeping Russia in check by funding a proxy war. And what we have right now is this war has been going on for almost a year. And some sites say that only 6,000 Russians have been killed. Other sites say 100,000 have been killed or wounded. Nobody knows what's going on. And that's why, like everything else in America, What did we do? We covered COVID until COVID stopped selling column inches, and then we started covering this or that. We covered the Ukraine war until it was time for something else. We covered this until we covered something else, right? I'm so tired of Americans having like a 2-second attention span. Supporting Ukraine is literally just a way of telling Putin that this is a half-assed support. Don't you dare touch us. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think Putin is stupid enough after seeing how poorly his troops performed. He's got to realize that there's no pushing the other countries that are joining NATO. Like, shit, we'll drop one mechanized division and that'll be it. We'll be halfway to the Kremlin before we'll invade Russia. We'll be fucking William Wallace, and we'll be there for a defensive operation, and we'll get one of... If you've never watched the crazy American... There's a TikToker who does these videos about when you're the most badass American sailor in the Revolution, they don't just call you the grandfather of the American Navy, they call you John Paul Jones. John Paul Jones, like, they tell these snippets... The guy's really good at his content, and he went to France to get ships. And he literally said when he was talking to the French ambassador or the French government or whatever, he's like, I don't want any ships that are slow because I plan on hitting England fast and I need to be able to get away. This guy, a fact you don't know, John Paul Jones took the war to England. Did you know that? Did you know that? Most Americans don't know that. Most English people don't know that. They don't know that because they don't teach it. John Paul Jones, on April 22nd, 1778, led a raid on Whitehaven, England. He burned Whitehaven, England. 2 harbor forts. He had 30 volunteers. And him and 30 volunteers invaded the 2 harbor forts at Whitehaven. 30 people! 30 people! Did you know that? Sparky knew that. Must be false. Didn't know that. Must be false. We don't even teach people our own history. I love the movie Angels and Demons with Tom Hanks, the Michael Brown book. And he's there in the Vatican, and he's trying to help them understand the Illuminati. And he says, yeah, this is vengeance for La Purga. And the captain of the guard says, La Purga? And he says, you guys don't even read your own history. Like, people don't know that. People always, everybody wants to, like, make the American Revolution seem like if France didn't help us, we would have lost, which is absolutely true. If France didn't help us, we would have lost. But because France gave us ships and leadership, officers, but John Paul Jones was like, nah, bitches, I need a ship that's fast. And he raided Whitehaven, England. Most Americans don't know that we took the fight to him. John Paul Jones, his ship was being run down by 2 larger British warships. He couldn't escape them. He didn't have the firepower to outgun them. So what did he do? He came about hard. He rammed the larger of the 2 British warships and took the fight ship to ship. After 8 hours of fighting, both British ships surrendered. These are the things about American history that you don't know. But why is that relevant? Because now you understand what we're doing in the Ukraine. All we're doing now in the Ukraine is the same thing France did for us in the Revolutionary War. Now, am I a big fan of giving the Ukraine crates and crates and crates of Switchblade drones? Yeah, I'm against it. I would rather there be peace. I would rather Joe Biden, I'd rather be elected president, an emergency election, get a haircut, still wear the hat. I'd get myself my Peaky Blinders 3-piece suit, show up at the UN and be like, Putin, the fuck we doing? Fuck we doing? What are you doing? You're burning up what little money you have, and you're forcing me to burn up money. Don't make me put troops on the ground and invade that shithole of a country you have. I got my own shithole of a country. Don't make me conquer you, right? But you guys also know that my opinion, if I got elected president, the very first thing I would do, very first thing, I would start calling all of our allies. And I would say, hey, have you watched Game of Thrones? And if they say no, I'd say, well, go watch season 8 and come back to me. All these other countries that want to be our allies, be like, look, you're either going to be my bannerman, or I don't want to have anything to fucking deal with you. I don't want to deal with you anymore. I'm going to war. Who's coming with me? Okay, good. All I need for you to do is show up and be like, that's not a good idea. Nuclear launch detected. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't think Russia's nuclear arsenal is viable. Based on the equipment that they have captured in Russia and the poor state of maintenance it's been in, I don't think Russia's nuclear arsenal is even functional. I don't think they could launch an ICBM right now if they wanted to. Would be very costly to be wrong about that. You're right. They probably have more luck. Russia would probably have more luck putting a missile on a truck, driving it into the Ukraine and detonating it. Because how is the rest? And you know, they moved their bombers inland because their base, that their long range strategic bombers were getting hit. They were getting that base hit with drones. They moved their bombers to the other side of the country, and then people said, "Oh, this is a victory," and I'm like, "No, remember, our B-2 bombers are based in Missouri. B-2 bombers are based in the middle of the country, but they can hit any target within 24 hours. Our B-2s can hit any target in the world in less than 24 hours. And despite what China and Russia and their propaganda machines like to try to tell you, China and Russia cannot detect our B-2 bombers. We could fly them in one ear and out the other, and they would never know we were there. China and Russia can only barely detect F-22s, right? And that's because there's an F-22. It's because they fly they damn near fly near the stratosphere, man. They fly like you can't even see them from the ground. You wouldn't even know a plane. You wouldn't even know it's there. Not at all. Yeah, they fly so damn high. You ain't seeing them. Yeah, close to the stratosphere. It's just like China was like trying to test the waters. They're like, we're gonna start like encroaching on Taiwan to see what the US does. What'd the US do? Fucking move the fleet. And China was like, got it. You ain't fucking around. Yeah, we're not fucking around with you. Commander Eugene Flucky? Only man to land troops on mainland Japan during World War II. He has the only train kill of a sub-captain. Still holds the unofficial speed record for a surface submarine set while running a minefield after attacking a Japanese anchorage. Yeah, you Navy fuckers have some... Navy has some crazy people. It's funny because in the Navy, the Navy has all these... Navy has all these officers that were the impressive ones. The Air Force has enlisted people that were the impressive ones. Army's kind of split, but the Air Force, all of our impressive people are enlisted. It made you feel proud to be enlisted in the Air Force. But no, to get back on the point at hand, I'm tired of everything being like, if somebody were to make if somebody were to do a thing about this show, they'd say, Irish American streamer, blah, blah, blah. Irish American white streamer has radical views. And I want you guys to see this. I don't know if they've taken it down. I want you guys to see, what happens with our news. And this is the shit you should be outraged about. Ready? You guys are gonna be what the fuck is this? Ready? Officers kill man with no active warrants at wrong house. I think they misspelled officers murder innocent man. But this is the shit that's allowed to be said in the media now to not be inflammatory. Officers murder man in home. Officers murder innocent man while he was in his own home. No, kills man with no active warrants. We're gonna say kills man with no active warrants. But no, he's a fucking innocent man. And that's the problem. Because what you're getting is that Fox, that I think that was actually Fox. No, that was NBC. That was Action 5 News NBC. Right? But that is what it is, man. Yeah, no. Officers kill man with no active warrants. No active warrants is an odd yet intentionally malicious way of saying innocent man. You killed an innocent guy. That's murder. Okay, that is murder. That is murder. There shouldn't be a very long investigation there. My mix-up. You're a murderer. Officer, you're going to jail. You're going booty house. In his own home that is trespassing without a warrant and first-degree murder. Yep. Absolutely. But you see, the problem is that we don't get angry. We get angry that Starbucks raises its... Oh, we get angry that Starbucks changes their stars. But we don't get angry that some guy got murdered. We will have 10,000 people march and then eventually riot because an individual got killed by 4 police officers, but he wasn't the greatest human being ever. That I'm not saying that he deserved to get killed, but I'm saying that we'll have 10,000 people march and then riot because of a guy that got killed by police officers. Where's the outrage for the innocent guy that got murdered in his own home? Wasn't doing anything wrong. I want a nationwide license for police, like the bar for lawyers, licenses for nurses. That way, when a cop screws up, they can have their license suspended or revoked. Stop shuffling around the bad apples. You don't keep bad apples, you throw them away. I 100% agree with you. I also believe that police officers, teachers, need to be better compensated. I believe that all police officers should need to be trained teachers. Because I believe that every 5th year, we should have enough police officers on the force that every 5th year as a police officer, you're doing something other than teaching. You're teaching criminology. You're working as a security guard. You get loaned to the military to guard an empty warehouse because you deal with the dredges of society every single day. A line from Game of Thrones that I agree with. When you spend all day putting the hammer to people, you start to feel like a carpenter. When you deal with the dredges of society all day, every day, you start to become disenfranchised. I watch a lot of Audit the Auditors because I like seeing good Audit the Auditors. You know what? Bad Audit the Auditors are making police officers the way they are because they know, like, first of all, I'm appalled at how many police officers don't know the law, right? I'm appalled at how many police officers don't know the law. And you see it on the Audit the Auditors. Yeah, we got a call of a suspicious person. Is that a felony or misdemeanor suspicious person? I have the right to ID you. No, you don't. You need to have reasonable, articulatable suspicion of the crime you think I've committed or the crime I'm about to commit or the crime I am currently committing. Just please articulate your reasonable suspicion. Well, you're a suspicious person. That's not a crime. I would say right now, the way my hair looks, the way my hair looks right now, I'll admit I look like a bum. I don't make no excuses. It's for charity. I haven't gotten a haircut in 6 months for charity. I admit that if I were to walk around, somebody might see me and say, yeah, that guy's a vagrant, that guy's a bum, and I'd accept that. Did I see the audit where they tased the old man in his doorway, then drug him into the hall so it looked like he was attacking a cop? I didn't see that one specifically, but I saw one where they pulled a taser out on a guy because now the guy was wrong, but they tased the guy because he wasn't a sheeple and he wasn't complying. There's a guy on YouTube who does that. He films cops trying to ID him just because he's a Mexican American and he's also a lawyer. Right. And most people don't understand. Some of you live in a state that has a domestic passport law. Some people live in a state that has a domestic passport law. And what that means is they can ID you anytime they want. There are some states that have stop and ID statutes. There's also this bullshit where I've started seeing, and these people need to get yanked out of the car and their whole day inconvenienced. All 50 states and the District of Columbia have statutes that say if you are in operation of a motor vehicle, upon stop, you are required to show your license to operate a motor vehicle. It doesn't matter if you think that you did something wrong or you don't believe you did something wrong or whatever your personal belief on is whether or not you did something wrong. If you're operating a motor vehicle and a cop pulls you over, he has the right to ask you for your driver's license. Because he has stopped you, he has the right to ask you for your license, registration, and proof of insurance. Because you are required by law to, in order to operate a motor vehicle, you must have insurance. There are people who will literally, with their little dash cams, say, well, you need to tell me why you pulled me over first. No, you need to prove to me that you have a license to operate this vehicle. Otherwise, we're just going to start there. You need to articulate why you pulled me over. No, and you're wrong. Those people need to get yanked out of the car, thrown in back of the fucking car, taken downtown, cited for failure to provide their driver's license when asked, so that they can be basically, and then the judge needs to say to them, if you're going to be a constitutionalist, know the fucking Constitution. Well, it violated my Fourth Amendment right. Oh, your Fourth Amendment right. Right? Your Fourth Amendment right. The right of people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath of affirmation, particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things. Cop comes to your house with a search warrant. Gotta let him in. Ask for the affidavit. Most of the time, you'll send them fucking packing because they know that you've told them that their warrant's not valid, and you're going to send them packing because you can't just get a warrant. A lot of people think that the cops just have to show you the warrant. They don't. They have to show you the signed affidavit. And normally the affidavit has to be signed by two people because it has to be two people's words against yours for them to gain access to your house. I tell people this not because I want to, I'm not trying to interfere. The judge, no, it's not the judge and the witness. The judge is not a witness on the affidavit. Not the justice of the peace. The affidavit needs to have two witnesses on it. The judge or the magistrate is the signatory to the warrant, not to the affidavit. The judge can't sign an affidavit that he knows I have 75 pounds of imaginary cocaine in my house. Right? The judge is the arbitrator. See, because what people forget is that the judge isn't my lawyer, but he's the middle part of the scale. And while I don't have a lawyer in the courtroom, the judge is supposed to be representing my interest against the judge is my representation or my counterweight to an overzealous state agency. Because you don't have your lawyer present when they're getting a warrant, the judge is kind of representing your interests because he's representing the interests of matters of law. A lot of times, and we have become so fucking logistics manufacturing process system that the judges are signing warrants and people are showing up and they're like, yeah, can I see the affidavit? Well, I don't have it. Well, then you have your camera up. So you're admitting right now you're about to execute an unlawful warrant. And that stops them. The only time cops really kind of get stopped in their tracks is when they realize they're about to do a whole lot of work for a whole lot of nothing, and then you look at them and they say, well, we're coming in with this warrant regardless of the affidavit. So you are self-sacrificing your protected immunity. And they look at you and you say, you realize I'm going to give you entry because you're going to come in anyway, But I'm letting you know I don't consent to this search. You are knowingly and willfully executing an unlawful search. You are violating your protected status, your protected immunity status. Any damages done to my home, I'm going to sue you personally for. And the smart cops stop right there at the door and they say, fuck, I'm done. Because you come, remember, they break your door. They have the right to break your door. They break your door and they don't have their protected status. You send them a bill by name. Send it to the police station. Fuck them. Send it to collections. A few states, those drivers would be correct, as a vehicle stop is not lawful for a lot of things. Like in the 1990s, a seatbelt was not a stoppable offense in California. It was ticketable, but a primary infraction allows to stop. It is now. So a cop should be able to articulate. Here's the thing, though. The cop doesn't need to articulate the reason for the stop until after you give them the driver's license. Because you're telling the cop that you don't need to show your ID, where the cop has the right to ID you. What you're talking about is street level arbitration of law. It is against the law to drive without your driver's license. It is against the law to drive without a seatbelt on. It is against the law to drive without proof of insurance in the vehicle. You may want to have see what at that point these auditors are wrong, because you give the cop your driver's license, you give the cop your proof of insurance, you give the cop your registration, he goes back, he runs it, he checks it, he comes back to you and he says, I stopped you today because you didn't have your seatbelt on. Well, you are aware, officer, that California statute, blah, 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 a seatbelt not being on isn't a primary offense. And then the cop writes you the ticket, you go to court. That's where you argue it in court. A lot of people have started doing the arguing with the cops. You don't want cops to be the judges. You don't want Judge Dredd. You want the cops to be members of the executive branch, who are the E, who enforce the law. You want the judges to be members of the judicial branch, who are the I's, who interpret the law. If it's a bad stop, it's a bad stop, and it's all going to get thrown out. But where people start to say, I don't have to give you my license until you articulate to me the reason for the stop. At that point, the stop's already in progress. Why do you want to be an asshole? You are required by law to have a valid driver's license. And I don't know why people want to act like assholes. Like, I told my wife one of her DRLs is out, so she's got to get that taken care of. I had a cop pull me over. I was doing 43 and a 45. Cop pulls me over. I pulled over to the side of the road. Cop came up. He said, hey, license and registration. Gave it to him. Came back. He said, hey, everything checks out. I just want to let you know that your back right driver's light is out. I know you from in and about the town. I'm not even going to issue you a warning ticket. Get it taken care of. And I was like, yeah, I'll get it taken care of right now. But if you go up to the cop and you're like, I don't have to give you my license, articulate your suspicion, blah, blah, blah. The cop's going to come up and he's going to be like, here's your $125 fix-it ticket. Now you have to go get it fixed, and you have to take the day off work, and you have to go down to courtroom 103, and you have to waste an entire day there for your ticket to get called, and you got to bring all the right paperwork to show that you fixed the ticket. Like, just, so I get that people want to be all about I'm a constitutionalist. Yeah, but you got to know the law, man. If they pull you over, they have the right to know, because especially the constitutionalists that forget they pulled you over. Now you can turn around and ask them for a stop ticket. Yeah, I'd like my stop ticket. Well, I need your ID then. And then I've seen the auditors are like, well, I'm not going to give you my ID. Well, then how can I write you a stop ticket? Some people want the stop ticket to prove the police harassed them or inconvenienced them. They're like, great, if you want a stop ticket, I need your ID. Because I don't need that. You can just put good citizen on it. Well, I'm not going to write that. Well, you have to. And they're wrong. The cop's like, I don't have to write a stop ticket if I don't have your ID. If you want to be good citizen and go on your way, then be good citizen and go on your way. In Canada, their laws are a bit different. If you are issued a warrant for search of your home, if you deny them, even if you don't have an affidavit, they will surround your home and keep you there until the documents are produced. The British law system is guilty until proven innocent, so here it's messed up. Yeah, so they do the same thing in America. They do the same thing. If there's enough like in your home, if they show up with a warrant and the warrant's not accurate, then they have the legal right, this quasi legal right. All they're going to do is say, well, due to your attitude and your confrontational nature, we truly genuinely believe that if we give you access to the home, you're going to destroy documents, you're going to destroy evidence, and that is their reasonable, articulatable suspicion of a crime that's about to be produced, or of a crime that's about to occur. That allows them legally to deny you entry into your home or to detain you, because they're going to be like, hey, assistant state's attorney, that search warrant, you didn't send the affidavit with it. And the person's requesting it, and they're like, okay, it's on the way. Now, sometimes you get situations where cops completely screw up, and the search warrant's written for 1 o'clock, and it's 12:02, and they enter the home, and they find, man, you could, if you had a search warrant for 1 o'clock, you entered my home right now, you could find, you know, what did Denzel Washington? You could say automatic weapons, plastic explosives, plutonium, and self-lighting charcoal briquettes. And I'm going to walk into court and say, you executed the search warrant at 12:02 and it was written for 1 p.m. So it's all fruit of the poisonous tree. You can't use any of it, nor can you use anything else. And that's where sometimes you got to realize, let them know that they're executing an illegal search warrant, and then don't get in their way and don't be obstinate. Let them know on video, in my opinion, in my belief, you haven't given me the affidavit, so I am informing you, I believe the search warrant you're about to execute is unlawful. You're going to violate your protected status, and I'm going to let you in anyway. But I'm not consenting to the search, but I'm not going to get put in handcuffs and be detained. So you go ahead and you execute your illegal search warrant if you want. If they walk in, they could find a pound of fucking blow on the kitchen table, and they're not going to be able to do anything about it. You're not going to get your pound of blow back, but they're not going to be able to charge you for it. But no, they can. The only thing they can't do, right? And this is where a lot of cops screw up. You cannot detain a vehicle. And this is becoming, more and more police officers are figuring this out. You cannot detain a vehicle in order to bring the dog out. If the dog can get there while you're writing the ticket, then the dog can do its walk around. But I also want to let you know, if a dog ever hits on your car, every dog handler in the world can give the dog a command and the dog will hit. The dog will alert, because they train the dogs to alert. It's all bullshit. The dogs are trained to alert on a command. They're trained to do their job. They're trained to appear as if they're doing their job. And by the way, about 50% of dogs get confused anyway. Dogs will hit on suitcases at the airport that have nothing in them. Dogs will miss suitcases that have explosives in them. If you've ever seen them doing like the dog training, at any given time, half the dogs are deniffed. They're dequalified. Anyway, I love the show. I love Saturdays. I love getting more people involved. It's good. It's talking points. And this is how we improve the system, even if we improve the system a little bit. Because now some of you are going to say to other people, hey, man, I was on Jay's show today. Where have you been? What you doing? I was listening to Jay. We were talking. You know, it's good times. You know, share this around. I will be back next Saturday for more politics-based stuff. I will be back Monday, Wednesday, and Friday this coming week for gaming stuff. And Tuesday, I'm going to be launching a Kickstarter to make more music. This has been all my electronic music, which I think is a better sitting for the glitch. We're the glitch in the matrix right now. So I will see you guys next week for another politics show.